Hey, Kauf, did you catch any of the preseason games last night?
Looks like the Jets might actually have a decent quarterback on their hands. Thing is, Tom Brady's still better than him and old enough to be his dad.
And they'll probably still win the division. Hey, how about football north of the border? Johnny Manziel not playing this weekend. However, our guests are going to chime in.
I'll do you one better than Canadian football. How about football, including Charlie Davies, former pro, going to be with us.
We're going to start baseball, though, first, coming up on Sweat.
There they are, just a couple of heroes. Matt LaMarca, Greg Ehrenberg. We're going to tell you all about these guys. We want to welcome you, though, into the Sweat to you, and you, all you and yours. For the first time in the history of this show, it's Friday. Welcome in. We're doing baseball right out of the gate with these two guys. Again, Matt LaMarca from the Action Network and DK Live's Greg Ehrenberg. That means, guys, chase fade.
Yeah, you guys all probably know what that means by now. If you don't, that's okay. Basically, we provide a topic and our analysts agree or disagree. So here's the first one. Max Scherzer, 12,600 tonight. He and the Nats are home against the Marlins. He hit 35 DK points last time out against the Cubs. So let's start with you, Greg. Chase or fade? Scherzer is the lock of all locks tonight.
Yeah, I have to chase this. I think that Scherzer is just such a safe play tonight, and 12,600 kind of seems like an expensive price tag, but I still think it's too cheap for him tonight. If you go on to sportsbook.draftkings.com, you'll see the Nationals listed as nearly 400 favorites. Super safe play. Scored at least 19 DK fantasy points in 21 of his 25 starts this year, and just a really easy matchup against the Marlins. 83 WRC plus against right-handed pitching this year, but they also don't have Justin Bour anymore, so they're probably even worse than that number indicates. And then also, there is a cheap pitcher in Robbie Wright, 7,600, who I think is a really good guy to pair Scherzer with, and the pair works pretty well salary-wise.
Does he get bonus points for the plug? It was a good plug.
Yeah.
Matt, how do you feel about Scherzer?
Look, Max Scherzer is obviously in play every time he toes the rubber, but I think there actually might be a better play, just a little bit cheaper, at Carlos Carrasco. Even better matchup, in my opinion, against the Orioles. Their projected lineup over the past 12 months has posted a 257 WOBA and a 29% strikeout rate against right-handed pitchers. And as safe as Scherzer seems against the Marlins, he's gone for 11.5 and 12.4 DraftKings points in 2 of 3 starts against them this season. The weather is a bit of an issue with Carrasco, but if that game gets off, I think he has just tremendous upside. So I actually prefer Carrasco for GPPs.
All right, well, one quick counterpoint there. First off, I usually say anything bad like that against Max Scherzer again, and you're going to see what the good, the bad, and the But in addition, one of the big issues I have with Carrasco is he has really weird home run splits for his career. I don't really know what the reasoning is, but for whatever it is, he's one of the rare pitchers actually much better on the road than he is at home. So with the salary kind of being a minimal amount of difference, I prefer to go up to Scherzer.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. It makes a lot of sense. Obviously, Scherzer is a great play tonight. I just think the ownership difference, makes Carrasco a little more appealing for me. And listen, I get the splits. They're definitely pronounced, but I don't know. I'm just not buying them, I guess. Like baseball, even though it's the longest sample size out there, I still think it's really weird that a guy would just be worse at home. So I'm banking some regression there.
Greg's just winning my heart early between the sportsbook plug and then going all Dwayne Wade without us even having seen Max Scherzer in a bathing suit. It's perfect. But all right, guys, let's go to the next one. Nick Castellanos, 4,300 for the Tigers. The outfielder's averaging nearly 10 DK points his last 4. So chase or fade him as a huge steal. Let's go right back to you, Matt.
I'm going to fade this. He's on the reverse side of his batting splits against Kyle Gibson. He's a known lefty killer, but he's not, particularly impressive against right-handed pitchers. Gibson enters the game in really good StatCast form. He's posted an average distance over his last 2 starts that's 19 feet lower than his 12-month average. And the Tigers have an implied team total of just 3.7 runs. So all of that leads me to say that I will probably not have any Castellanos tonight.
Greg?
Yeah, I'm going to have to fade that also. And I'm also going to have to fade whoever's math skills there are that figured out the almost 10-point average. He scored 40 fantasy points just a couple of games ago. So unless he scored negative fantasy points in his other games, there's no way that he only averaged almost 10 fantasy points. But I'm going to have to agree with Matt here. there are better situations, I think, to target tonight. Kyle Gibson only allows a 291 WOBA against right-handed bats. And there are some cheaper guys kind of in the price range of Nick Castellanos, particularly in that Angels-Rangers game, that I think make for better targets this evening.
Oh, Greg's knocking our math skills now. So are you still a big fan of his tonight early on in the program?
He's not knocking my math skills.
Rangers-Angels, as Greg brought up, is a game projected for 11 runs for the second straight day. So you've got to keep riding the momentum and stack that game, perhaps, Greg?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe a little bit of concern that the ownership could be high, but there's so many games on the slate that I think that could kind of spread out some of the ownership. And the other thing, too, is Matt had mentioned some of the weather earlier. There are some games with kind of crappy weather in the forecast. This isn't one of them. This is a really safe game in terms of weather. And then if you look at Drew Hutchinson starting for the Rangers tonight, he hasn't had an ERA below 5.2 since 2014. His numbers are awful this year. He's a 6.07 ERA, 6.93 FIP. He's giving a ton of home runs, 21.9% home run to fly ball rate, a lot of hard contact, 36% hard contact rate. The Angels, fairly cheap. So you could fit them in pretty easily, 5-man stack with Robbie Ray and Max Scherzer as starting pitchers, some cheaper plugs. That's actually my favorite lineup construction for tonight.
Matt, yourself?
Yeah, I think if you are stacking that game, the Angels is the side. Definitely some nice line movement in their favor. They've gone from 5.2 runs to 5.5. So I think that they're the team if you are stacking that game. But I don't think by any means that it's a must stack. You know, the Indians 6.1 implied team total, Red Sox 5.6. And I really like the Minnesota Twins as an under-the-radar stack tonight. Their totals moved up to 5.0 runs, and I think they're in a really nice spot as well. So if the ownership is going to be, sort of condensed on that game, I have no problem looking elsewhere.
All right, guys. Matt, Greg, thank you for your expertise. Go take a break. You can towel off. We'll talk to you a little bit later on in the show. But I think we're going to make a move here, get away from baseball for a little bit. A little football.
Yeah, a little football. Pat Mayo joins us breaking down some quarterbacks.
Doug Peterson said Carson Wentz and his knee will need a week of 11-on-11 work to be ready for week 1. Nick Foles is still nursing a neck injury as well. Do you anticipate Carson Wentz actually being on the field for that opening Thursday nighter?
I do, as long as he doesn't have a setback at this point, and the setback is going to come from him. I think that if you look at the progression, if you look at what we've seen so far, you see him. I think I talked to you or somebody about it, is the fact that he's moving vertically in his base in the pocket. I want to see him more horizontally with that leg, but he's starting to get there. He's starting to make those movements. My concern is why I say it relies on him is because you know how players can be. All of a sudden it's like, oh, I feel great. Let's keep going. And they start pushing it. And then sometimes they either overcompensate for something because they are still feeling a little bit of a nagging soreness. And then it's kind of like the Jose Reyes when he used to injure like his quad and then his calf and then the shin running the bases 10 years ago for the Mets. It's kind of that type of stuff. It's like you overcompensate somewhere and end up leaning towards another injury and then you have to sit for a week. So as long as Carson Wentz doesn't get too aggressive, it seems like he's on pace for week 1. I think that my biggest concern, like I said, is he might even have that in the back of his mind that Nick Foles is hurt too and really start pushing himself. So hopefully that doesn't happen. And worst case scenario, it sounds like he would only miss week 1, if anything.
All right, so I guess the big conundrum in drafts is if you're going to take an injured Carson Wentz, which I don't really have no problem with. Even if he misses 4 weeks, it doesn't really matter. Like we've talked about, you can plug and play so many different QBs with a full slate of games and no bye weeks with no real issues. But in a draft, a gun to your head and you had to take one, would it be Wentz or would it be Luck?
It would be Luck at this point.
Yeah,
at least because
it would be Luck for me too.
Yeah, and the thing is, just between the two of them, look, they both have top 5 upside. We've seen 1 year of Wentz doing it with a great touchdown interception ratio. And I was a big fan of Carson Wentz coming out of college, so I want to make that specifically clear. But we've seen Andrew Luck be in contention for the number 1 quarterback. We see the ability that he has. Obviously, he could come back and not be anything like he used to be. He might even be 90% of what he used to be, which is still pretty damn good. But at least with Andrew Luck, he's already out there. He's already making throws. He's already playing games.
All right, so would you go Carson Wentz or, let's say, Kirk Cousins?
Nah, I would roll the dice on Carson Wentz.
Right now, I had Wentz at the very top of that tier 3 of quarterback, one spot ahead of Luck. I'm going to swap those two, yet keep him ahead of Kirk Cousins. But I'm still under the approach of I'm going to try to wait as long as possible, see if I can get Russell Wilson. If I can't do that, I probably won't be taking any of these guys in this range. I'll wait till your Phillip Rivers, Marcus Mariota's like round 13, 14. That's how I'm playing my strategy at
Matthew Stafford for free.
Matthew Stafford for free, but hey, I would rather roll the dice on like a Mahomes, who's going a bit higher now, or Mariota, rather than take Matt Stafford, who's very consistent across the board. But I would hope to spike with one of those guys, and if it doesn't work out, cut them. And then I can just pick up Matt Stafford. But then I can pick up Matt Stafford for free. What's the difference?
We're going to stick with football here because, of course, second week of the preseason games. Got to talk about those. Here to help us out, Reed Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, and Rosalie Michaels. Now, I can only imagine that she's more qualified than the others because she's known as the fantasy girl. Reed, you're not the fantasy guy. Jeff, you're no one's fantasy. So, how do we explain this?
Oh, man, just always keeping it classy, huh, Kauf? I appreciate that.
Jeff, do you have a response to that? Or you're okay? Anyways, there were a few exhibition games last night. Patriots, Packers, Redskins were all winners in their games, but that doesn't really mean anything, Kauf, at this time of the year.
No, unfortunately, it really doesn't. So we need fantasy takes, right? So, Jeff, I'm going to go right back to you because I've missed you. Any clarity in the Jets QB situation after watching kind of a mixed bag from both Sam Darnold and Teddy Bridgewater? Would you take either of these guys in a season-long draft?
I mean, the Jets are the Jets. They're going to do what they're going to do. If you want my take on what they should do, they should never have drafted Sam Darnold, and they should be starting Teddy Bridgewater. He's their best quarterback. That's not going to happen, though, so it's pointless to talk about. They're going to trade Teddy Bridgewater. It's almost a certainty at this point. And whoever gets him is going to get a really good young quarterback who's potentially going to be, in this league for a while. I think Sam Darnold was a bad pick. I don't see anything I like from him, quite frankly. He averaged 5.4 yards per completion last night, yet the media in New York is fawning over him. I wouldn't touch him in fantasy. I just don't think there's enough upside there. If you're going to take a shot with the young quarterback, it's Baker Mayfield. One thing I'll say about Darnold, he's probably going to start, so he's probably going to get the playing time.
Rosalie, any benefit for either of these guys?
It's funny, he talks about the New York media. The New York media loves to rail on people, but they do try to prop people up first before they knock them down as well. So, I'm seeing the same thing with, I don't think Sam Darnold's doing terribly. He's a rookie, right? I don't see him coming in and doing what we see Deshaun Watson do or what we saw Dak Prescott do. He's not that caliber of a player. But, he's going to be efficient. And I agree with Jeff that Teddy Bridgewater is just right now auditioning for another team. So obviously you're not going to take him in season-long fantasy. But I think that we are all forgetting how effective Josh McCown actually was last season. In the 12 games that he started, he had 7 of them with over 18 points, and 3 of those games with over 30 points. So with the addition of Nunwa and Terrell Pryor and Robbie Anderson there already, I think that we've got some good options there in New York. And so McCown, are you going to take him in your draft? No. Are you going to take Darnold in your draft? No. But if you want to stash him for later and use him during a bye week, not a bad idea, as long as I see Sam Darnold start throwing it down the field.
Now let's finish this Reed sandwich here for a second, guys, because I don't know. Reed, you tell me. Tell me if I'm being naive. I feel like there's a little bit on the part of Rosalie and Jeff, a little bit of short-sightedness here going on right now because Sam Darnold at this point has played for like 6 seconds. We're 2 weeks into the preseason. He's a top 5 pick. Expectations are high. I agree that clearly Teddy Bridgewater is the superior quarterback. He should be. He's been in the league longer, and he's had success in Minnesota. He could go somewhere else. It makes sense. Try and get value for him. But does that automatically mean that Darnold is just going to go in there and do nothing this year that's of fantasy value?
Well, I will say I will agree with. I think Jeff agrees with me too. That you're always naive. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Of course. But Rosalie and Jeff make good points. Like to me, Teddy Bridgewater is a guy. We saw his ceiling in Minnesota in 2015, where he's a guy who gets you, 14 to 18 touchdowns. His pass attempts probably only get you in the low 20s, and so we've seen what Teddy Bridgewater is and what he can do. He's a mobile quarterback, and again, his sample size isn't that big as well. And yes, he looked good against maybe a second or third string. This guy brought Minnesota to the playoffs, and so he's a playoff type quarterback. But at the same time, Rosalie is right. I mean, you got McCown, who is a serviceable bridge quarterback, no pun intended, to Darnold. You don't pick a quarterback third overall to not play him. And when you look at McCown, yes, 8 games he had a QBR of over 100, but in the games that he's behind, he's averaged about 88 QBR. So he's not a guy who likes to come, just who plays well from behind. I think Darnold does come in, and Teddy Bridgewater will make a serviceable backup somewhere else because he is still talented. So Jeff's right there.
I think Rosalie has the best take. I mean, from a fantasy perspective, is don't draft either. Look at them for bye weeks because you don't know who's going to start yet. And even if Darnold does start, McCown's probably going to have to come in relief duty at least once. So
it's a 3-headed monster back there for the Jets. We'll see how it pans out. Let's go to running backs. A few injuries from last night. Backfield chaos in Green Bay, guys. Jamal Williams hurt his ankle last night, and you add that to Aaron Jones being suspended for the Packers the first 2 games of the season. So we're wondering about the interest in Ty Montgomery. Reed, NFL.com, doesn't even think he's a top 50 running back right now.
Well, what is he, right? I mean, we have these position lists, like they're taking something from the NBA and saying these guys don't have positions. We saw what he potentially could do with a bell cow, or when he had the position to himself. And he didn't do that well because as a running back, you go through so much more wear and tear. And so I don't think that Ty Montgomery is someone that you're drafting at all. Jamal Williams to me is someone that doesn't have as high of a ceiling as Aaron Jones. If I'm drafting in season long, I'm taking Aaron Jones at his price because of his ceiling. 3 games we saw him eclipse, I think, 100 yards when he was playing. And then he kind of faltered off, but we saw what he could do in those games. And so at his ceiling, where he's going around the 7th or 8th round, I'm taking that price as opposed to Jamal Williams, to where we've seen what he can do. He's a guy who goes between the tackles. He'll get you 18 carries and 75, 80 yards, and he might get you a touchdown. So no faith in Ty Montgomery, but to me, Jones is a guy I would want in that backfield.
But Jeff, here's what I didn't hear there. Nothing about Aaron Rodgers. Isn't that relevant to this situation, that Rodgers is coming back? I mean, is that better or worse for Ty Montgomery in this situation?
I mean, Aaron Rodgers isn't playing running back, Kaufman.
No, I recognize that. But
hey, did you hear, Reed? It's positionless football.
It affects that. Well, no, I get that with the whole Montgomery zero receivers, zero running back. But clearly, when you bring in a better quarterback, it's going to affect the offense in one way or another.
Yeah, and here's some of the appeal of Ty Montgomery, because in a lot of ways, I feel like he's probably the safest pick. If a guy like Randall Cobb gets hurt, he's probably going to get thrown in for some wide receiver snaps. And then you're right, Aaron Rodgers being back there only adds to his upside. So I feel like Ty Montgomery is the one running back that you're probably going to be able to count on the entire year. It doesn't mean he's got a ton of upside. If you're in a 1 PPR league where you're getting 1 point per reception, I think he's much more appealing than 0.5 or no PPR leagues. That's for sure. I wouldn't touch him in a no PPR league. Of the other 2 running backs, I think this is a great buy opportunity for Jamal Williams. The ankle injury, it does not sound serious at all. They're talking about him being out for a week. I don't mind Aaron Jones. I think both of these running backs look good, but Jamal Williams has looked really good in the preseason. He's looked better. He's looked really good in the pass game. The coaching staff obviously likes him. He's not coming in off a suspension. So for me, good buy opportunity on Jamal Williams. He's more of an every down back. Ty Montgomery, if you can get him in the late rounds in a PPR league, he's fine.
Yeah, Jeff, to your point, NFL Network made the report out today. It was just a minor injury for Jamal Williams, so a week or so for him. Rosalie, your take on Ty Montgomery.
My take here is, we just talked about it a little bit. With Aaron Rodgers, this is a passing offense. It is a passing offense, and Ty Montgomery is the passing down back. So absolutely he holds value there. For me personally, past the Eddie Lacy days, I'm not taking a Green Bay running back with any sort of value to it because they just throw the ball so much. And yeah, Aaron Rodgers is having some issues with his wide receivers right now, but did you see what he did with those tight ends last night? Those tight ends have become He's become big fans of those tight ends. I think we're going to see a lot of Jimmy Graham this year. And I think we are going to see Ty Montgomery more in those passing situations because we know that Aaron can count on him, and that's important to Aaron Rodgers. And then this new guy, Kumaro, I like him coming in too. And I think that Aaron Rodgers likes him as well. So I think that I'm not taking Jamal Williams, even though he's going to be, he's going to be coming back soon, and the injury's not that bad. Aaron Jones I like him a lot. I just don't think the system really will support an every down back fantasy-wise. But in a PPR league, absolutely, I would take Ty Montgomery.
All right, well, guys and gal, let's get your slate-approved pick from some of these guys that we've been talking about, obviously, and just in general. You got the 5-game slate here tonight. What are you expecting? Who's the guy that you want to lean on? Rosalie, you could start.
Well, if we're talking a lock, just somebody that is going to do great, there's 2 names that come up, and simply because Andy Reid has stated that his starters will start for the entire first half. So to me, more playing time gives lots of opportunity. And the number 1 lock for me would be Kelsey in that situation. I have a little bit of fear regarding Mahomes. I just don't know that he's going to be ready to really sling the ball down the field. I think he's going to get flustered a lot. And I think that he's going to be looking for Kelsey. If I were him, I would be looking to Kelsey every time, because Kelsey is the type of tight end that makes a quarterback look good. So I think Mahomes is going to be looking for him, and I think that's my lock tonight.
Jeff?
I'll go with Baker Mayfield. I mean, I don't have as much distrust with Mahomes. I think he's a good target, but I just love what I saw from Baker Mayfield. He was aggressive the first time out. Now he's getting a second chance. Again, I bring back to Sam Darnold. He averaged 5.4 yards per throw. Baker Mayfield isn't going to do that. He's going to be pushing it down the field. I think he's a great preseason target tonight.
And Reed?
so much excitement. I'm going to Calvin Ridley here, the rookie, the rookie from Alabama, obviously in Atlanta. The reports they're saying that he's going to get some time in the special teams and the punt and the kickoff return. So let's see what he can do. Let's see what they got in their first round pick. So give me Calvin Ridley.
You should loosen your collar. You look a little stressed, a little uptight.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, it's Friday, man.
Stay in your lane.
It's Friday. Loosen up.
I'm going to use the words from Jeff. Stay in your lane.
All right, guys.
You look good, Reed.
Thanks a lot for your
Rosalie.
time talking football. We'll see how these injuries pan out. Let's go to Pierce Dietrich. He's going to get us set for NASCAR coming up this weekend with Price Check.
Welcome to Price Check. I'm Pierce Dietrich. Let's look at the salaries for Bristol. Whose salary jumped up this week? Ricky Stenhouse Jr., $6,700 up to $7,800 in 11 Bristol races. He has 6 top 10s, 10 top 20s, and his worst finish is just 21st. Who are you and what have you done with Ricky Stenhouse? Kyle Larson, $10,600 up to $11,400. Bristol is his favorite track. 150 points in the spring race. High groove near the wall. Enough said. William Byron, $6,800 up to $7,400. His 2-race top 10 streak snapped last week when he wrecked at Michigan. Too bad everyone rostered him. Thanks a lot, William. Whose salary dropped this week? Martin Truex Jr., $11,700 down to $10,800. He wrecked at Bristol in the spring, but he had a top 5 car at Dover. Among drivers not named Kyle, he looks pretty good. David Reagan, $6,000 down to $5,500. He finished 12th at Bristol in the spring, but in 21 Bristol races, he's only finished on the lead lap 6 times. Jimmy Johnson, $9,200 down to $8,700. At the high bank short tracks, he still got it. He won at Bristol last year. He won at Dover last year. Favorite play of the week, Kyle Busch, $12,300. He's expensive, but there are a lot of laps. He can definitely score enough points to reach value and beyond. He swept the Bristol night races last year. Matt DiBenedetto, $5,300. If you want to pay for Busch, then you're going to have to punt. In the last 5 Bristol races, DiBenedetto's average finish is 18th. All right, guys, check out the DK Playbook for your DFS information and needs. If you got NASCAR questions, hit me up on Twitter at Race4the I'm Pierce Dietrich. Catch me on DK Live.
Thanks, Pierce. Rosalie got as much as she could handle from Jeff and Reed,
who
but
could blame her?
That duo decided to stick around and hang out with us. Fantasy Girl is out. And
I know why. I think I know why.
Why is that?
Well, we're going to talk more football. It's Canadian football, though, where the hits aren't quite as hard and everyone says sorry.
Oh,
so
he's loosening his collar.
There he is, even popping the collar.
It's not loosened.
Like
I'm not taking any advice, any fashion advice from Kauf.
Oh, no, it's not loosened. It's worse, actually.
I can't do this.
My Friday afternoon was just great before I had to do 2 segments worth of Kaufman.
Thanks for coming back, Jeff. Anyway, Jeff's Canadian. Reed has only been there, I think, maybe. Reed, have you been to Canada at least?
Yeah, British Columbia.
He's been Hawaii.
Oh, good. Well, he's from Hawaii, so he's got at least a Canadian visit under his belt. So Reed's going to make picks. Jeff is going to grade them. That's how we're going to do this.
Sure. Let's start quarterbacks. Reed, who is your quarterback for the upcoming Canadian Football League slate?
Like, I got to think, like, this is an open book test, obviously, because I studied the CFL quite a bit. Antonio Pipkin is someone that I was looking at, the cheapest quarterback. I think he's a 7th-string quarterback in Ottawa. Ottawa's Manziel's. I mean, look, this guy is the cheapest. I thought I wanted to go down there, but I think he's only had 2 passes in career. So I went with McLeod Bethel Thompson at 8,200. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Jeff?
I think so, actually.
Yeah, well, hell, I don't know.
Just so you know, he's. I mean, BC is favored by 3. This is going to be.
He started his first game last week. Like,
right.
I mean, it's
well, he did.
Not only
did
that,
well.
He's one of those jerks with 3 names. You can't even trust him.
He's one of those offensive mavens with 3 names, like Jim Bob Cooter. So I'm taking this guy at 8,200. I'm not going to pay up for any of these other guys. BC is favored by 3, but they're 0-4 on the road. So right now, I want the guy that's going to be passing. He's 8,200. He got that starting job just a couple of games ago, like Jeff was alluding to. So my starting QB, again, give me the 3-name guy, MBT at 8,200.
Jeff, I mean, I don't know how you can turn down a guy named Pitkin at 6K as the 9th-string quarterback. He's actually it's actually scary, but I mean, I'd just pay up for Mike Riley. I mean, the quarterbacks on the slate are a little bit scary. I know he's cost a lot, but the Eskimos are without their starting running back. All they do is throw. I don't mind going down to the Argos QB if you want to pay down, but I think I'd just click on Mike Riley.
He went with the QB that he could pronounce.
Sure, yeah, no,
easily.
the
Mike
very
Riley.
basic name. Yeah, can't get that wrong. You got to love the Eskimos.
I mean, I got to give out shout-outs to the local guys here.
Obviously. Tell us about the running back, Reed. Who have you fallen in love with in the 6 seconds you've been watching CFL football?
Yep. I think my first one is, I think it's Bilal Powell's brother, William Powell, at 7,600.
I think you're just making that up.
I'm 100% making this up. Again, going to my notes here, he's after a good game, it looks like he racked up a couple of good games previously in the season. So it looks like this guy has a couple of good ones, and then he falters off and kind of falls off a cliff and only has about 3 or 4 attempts for 20 yards. So give me this guy. Last game he had, I think, in the teens or in the low 20s in terms of attempts. So again, I like this game. So give me William Powell at 7,600 for my RB.
Jeff, you like that recency bias?
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I think if I'm going to pay up that high, I just go to Andrew Harris. I'll throw out the one value play I do like. Ramar Morris, Calgary, they're without their starter. Calgary's basically essentially the best team in the league. They like to run the ball. So Morris at 5,800 could easily pay off in that spot.
Jeff, you can't just go with the high play at every position, pal. You got a lineup to make here.
Hey, the values are coming, Kaufman.
All right.
Calm down.
All right, we need a pair of receivers from each of you. Let's go to Jeff first. 2 receivers, Jeff.
Oh, I have to give the receivers? Oh, man.
No, you get to grade, right? Don't we want Reed to do it?
No, I'm grading this.
Oh, you're going to go. All right, let's see what you got.
No. I'm picking it. I'm just kidding.
I'll throw one out. I talked about value plays. Let's get to Darius Bowman, Montreal. Yeah, they have like their 9th-string quarterback. This is a revenge game. Darius Bowman used to be an Edmonton Eskimo.
Narrative Street, yeah.
He's still a very, very good player.
Sure.
4,900. He'll step up in this spot. That's way too cheap. He's essentially their #1 wide receiver now. He's their best wide receiver, so I like that price. It's really cheap for a guy with a lot of talent.
No, I remember the tales of those Edmonton Eskimos sitting down in the bar having a Molson. What do you got there, Reed?
These jokes are terrible.
They're awful.
Yep. So again, I'm sticking with the Eskimo narrative here. I really like the Eskimos. Again, you have Daryl Walker. If you want, you're going to pay up for the Michael Thomas of the CFL. Like this offense is like the Saints. You got to pay up 9,600, but again, there's a trio of receivers out in the Eskimos that are just racking up the points. He's one of them. He's a little cheaper at 9,600. He's going to get you that 5 reception, 70-yard and touchdown game. So, give me Darrell Walker at 9,600.
The Saints of the CFL.
You like that, huh?
Who could stop him?
Well, I'll like it if it works, and we'll watch.
Put it in the lineup.
Have to.
All right, fellas, let's get your slate-approved picks, your absolute locks for the weekend's 4-game slate in the CFL.
Yeah, who really jumps out at you guys?
I'm not going Antonio Pipkin, although I want to because he is extremely cheap. But again, I'm going with my QB here, McLeod Bethel Thompson, MBT.
Jeff?
I don't know if there's no such thing as a lock in sports. There's definitely not such thing as a lock in the CFL, which is like, the lineups change on a minute's notice. I'll go with the Darius Bowman, though. Again, I just think you got to take advantage of that price. He's the player I'd target here.
How's Johnny Manziel's noggin at this point?
Not good.
Can't be worse than it was before he entered the league. So.
Ooh, bird.
Rough. All right, guys, thanks a lot. We're going to step aside now.
Guys.
Pat Mayo is going to rejoin us and talk NFL auction draft strategy. If you don't even know what this is, here's Pat.
You mentioned tight end. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. I like to also put up either sleepers or buzz guys as early as possible. Not like deep sleepers, but players that are just gaining a lot of helium as the offseason goes along.
Like Jerick McKinnon, for instance. He fits that bill.
Jerick McKinnon, and right now he's dealing with this knee injury, going to be kept out of the preseason. Maybe it's kind of down on him a little bit now, but like 3 weeks ago, that would have been the guy. Like Deshaun Watson, when everyone was going nuts on him, he's still someone that I would put up as early as possible. Not to say that I don't want Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson's going to be good. But it works twofold in terms of auction strategy if you can throw it a quarterback. Because like you mentioned, I'm good taking Matt Stafford for like $1 at the very end. So not only do you run your player, you run your opponents out of money and they can't come over the top of you or bid as much on the players that you actually want, but you also create a giant price gap. When people's bank accounts are flush with auction dollars, they're willing to spend. They'll get into a bidding war and overpay for someone in the first like 4 rounds of nomination. Everyone has money. So when you throw at someone like Deshaun Watson, if his like actual auction value should be like $12, he might go for like $35 because people are real fired up to get Deshaun Watson. So not only do you run people out of money, the disparity that you create and the value that you gain from the position is so gigantic. So let's just say he goes for 30, or you throw at Aaron Rodgers, he goes for like 33, and I'm able to get Matt Ryan for $1 or $0 at the end. The value that I just got and the fact that I can now reinvest that into other positions is one of the biggest advantages that you can find in an auction draft.
Absolutely. I mean, a perfect example, too, is relative position value-wise, Aaron Rodgers is a plus 7% over the fantasy league average QB1. Not QB as a whole, but QB1. The fantasy league average guy is somebody like Ben Roethlisberger, who's a 0. Now, you're going to spend a much higher premium on Aaron Rodgers, but how much of an advantage are you gaining? Not much when you're looking at it statistically on a weekly basis. Yes, Aaron Rodgers is a great fantasy quarterback, but Ben Roethlisberger is not that far behind him, statistically speaking. So therefore, when you're talking about how you want to spend those dollars and how you want to effectively do it, to me, that's a perfect example of why the Black Book is so helpful. And I'll tell you what, too, the other thing you think about, too, is people make a huge mistake sometimes, Pat, in trying to fill out their roster all the time. Saying, oh, I need a tight end now, or there's a run happening here, whatever it is. What you want to do constantly is look for the talent, look for the guys who move the needle, look for the guys who are productive. Don't worry too much about filling out your roster. There'll be time for that, and you want to do that. You want to do that responsibly. You don't want to just fill out your roster for the sake of filling out your roster when you're spending money in an auction on guys that don't make an impact significantly enough that are cost effective. So that's the other thing for me. If you can find strength in wide receiver by building up a phenomenal core, great. You're going to go back-to-back huge running backs with all your auction money, great. Create a strength. Don't worry so much about filling out your roster. The waiver wire will also be there. We all know there's so many injuries. There's so much fruitfulness in the waiver wire in the first 6 weeks of the season. You'll find a way to make it work.
All right, thanks for sticking with us here on The Sweat. I'm going to be honest, this is probably going to be my favorite segment of the show. Now, granted,
you've been excited about this one.
Well, the last one was good. Don't get me wrong. CFL football with Reed and Jeff, I'm all about that. I don't want to hype this up. Well, yeah, sure, but this one right here, these two guys absolutely went at it the last time they were on camera together for our World Cup preview show. I just tried to sit back and officiate. We got Jordan Cooper from RotoWire and former U.S. national team forward, MLS star Charlie Davies. What's up, Chuck? Hey, guys.
How's it going, Kaufman? What's up, Jordan?
Turns out Charlie was right during the World Cup. So I have to give him
trust the pros, right?
Revenge time, Jordan.
# trust the pros.
Revenge time. So here's what we're going to do, gents. There's a 5-game EPL slate tomorrow. Harry Kane, the highest priced forward at $11 grand. Are you guys selling? Are you guys selling, or do you need to get him into your lineups? Let's start with you, Charlie.
You get him into your lineups. I know he hasn't scored a goal in his career in August, which is he's played 14 games in August. He has yet to score. He doesn't start well, but I'm telling you, he's ready to get going. I would count him in as being on the score sheet this weekend.
Jordan?
Well, everyone that listens to the RotoWire podcast knows I'm a chronic Kane fader, and that usually works out for me, except on Sundays. But the August curse is real. And I know Tottenham are the biggest favorites on the slate, but there may be better Tottenham options to take, and there are other forward spot options that may be safer. I know people that will be looking on the game log will see Gylfi Sigurdsson only played 42 minutes last week, but that was primarily due because he got subbed off after a red card from Jagielka. So, I mean, if you're looking for a goal's worth of points, I think Everton are a favorite over Southampton. Mark Hughes should be the first manager sacked this year. Southampton do not look good. And I trust Gylfi Sigurdsson to give me a goal's worth of points rather than bank on the 15th game that Kane will play and not score a goal.
You're telling me you're going to go with Sigurdsson over Harry Kane, and they're playing against Fulham at home, and you would take Gylfi Sigurdsson, who is an attacking midfielder, over a proven goal scorer who's been in the Golden Boot race for 2 straight seasons. And you're going to tell me you would bank on that happening over Harry Kane?
Well, this is fantasy sports, not real life, so I'm doing the Iceland Viking clap.
Oh, God.
Sigurdsson over Harry Kane.
Come on, Jordan.
Isn't this just kind of, I mean, look, we all fall in love with narrative street at times, depending on the sport and whatever category, but certain things like no career goals in 14 August matches, that one feels to me like a little bit of a reach. Like I'm just supposed to sit back here and believe that, well, he's just stricken by August. It's a bad month. There's nothing he can do about it.
It's almost similar to the Red Sox curse. We're sitting here, they're never going to win the World Series. And then all of a sudden they come back 2004 and see you later, Yankees. And thanks again. And we're talking World Series.
Well, I don't know. That was 86 years as opposed to 14 matches. That felt pretty real.
Harry Kane's going to break this curse.
Jordan, you sticking by it?
No, I'm taking Christian Eriksen. I know we're going to talk about him next, but for me, he's much safer. We saw him with Denmark. Like, Harry Kane is priced at 11K. Like, he needs to score a goal in order to make value. Like, I'm going to try to get the peripheral points and hope that the curse actually is real.
All right, well, let's talk about Christian Eriksen. You mentioned him. He's joined by a pair of Chelsea players, Eden Hazard and Willian. Now, the priciest players, obviously. Are you looking at one of them? Should you seek value in this spot instead? What's the approach here, Jordan?
Well, I think you can't go wrong with Christian Eriksen. Tottenham are a minus 350 favorite, and they'll get 65-plus possession of the ball, which will mean 20-plus dead ball opportunities. Christian Eriksen's above every dead ball with the crosses, with the shots on goal. I mean, the problem is that I'm not like anti-Kane. It's that if you're going to play Eriksen and Kane together, you almost have no salary to do anything else with the rest of your lineup. So I do give Charlie some credit that Kane still is a good play this week, but I'd rather find a way to fit Christian Eriksen in my lineups and fade Kane rather than do vice versa.
It's one or the other, right? So it's either you go with Kane and you adjust, or you go with Eriksen, who I think they're both great plays. Eriksen's playing against Fulham as well. He's deadly on set pieces. He creates goals. He can score goals. It's a great choice. Hazard still, he had an assist this past weekend, but, the World Cup hangover is real. A lot of players typically wait a little bit before they get back into it and start banging goals in and creating assists. I mean, they're playing Arsenal. It's not the easiest of opponents. Arsenal's looking to get back on track with their new coach. Eriksen is definitely the right play in this situation.
So wait, Charlie, you're saying that the World Cup hangover is real to be anti-Hazard, but Kane is fine. The World Cup hangover for Kane is fine.
Yes, it is, because they didn't win.
All right, no rebuttal, I guess. Charlie, as far as defense, you of course want a clean sheet bonus, but is it better to roster someone who will score on a set piece? I'm thinking Kieran Trippier of Tottenham. Is he the right fit at 6K?
I think you could go even cheaper and get a bargain. Leicester would be a team for me that you would want to pick some of the defenders. They're going against Wolves, not the best opponent. Leicester showed pretty well against Manchester United in Old Trafford. I would like one of their players to a Maguire, for instance, who can get up, rise above everyone in the box, and put one in off a set piece and get a clean sheet.
Jordan, you guys getting along on this one?
I'm going to be on the opposite side of the game.
Good.
Trippier isn't even a guarantee to start. I mean, coming off of the World Cup, I mean, he didn't play in the first game, so he isn't even a guarantee to be in. If he is in, he's a great floor play. I think putting him in your cash lineup is he'd be the top defender choice. But if you're going to play a Kane or an Eriksson and these high-priced players, you're going to have to find a punt play. And typically in daily fantasy, we look for the cheap fullbacks, the wing-type players at defense. So that's why I'm looking at the Wolves 3-4-3 system, which has their two players playing as wingbacks, and they're both under 4K. And that's Matt Doherty and Johnny. Either or, I think you're fine with, but at 3,600 and 3,800, all you really need is 4 points out of them. Keeping the clean sheet away from Leicester may not be in the cards for them.
It's called Hail Mary.
But it's not really a Hail Mary. You just need 4 points. If you're going to play Chilwell at 5,300, I mean, you're going to need 8 points out of him. If you're going to play Maguire, you need a goal out of him because he's not going to get points elsewise. So I like
Chilwell with playing with bodies.
Just so you can punt to get – in order to get your Kane, Charlie, you're going to have to play a sub 4K guy. So maybe you play one of the Fulhams guys.
Yeah, maybe, but I wouldn't choose them.
All right, well, obviously one of you is high on Kane, the other is high on Eriksson. So how about we get your slate-approved picks for this coming weekend? Jordan?
My slate-approved pick is on Leicester. Okay, we'll go back. We'll go back to Leicester.
Okay.
And he's 6,600. It's James Maddison. He came from Norwich after Mahrez has departed for Man City. And since then, in the first game, in 63 minutes, double-digit fantasy points. He's on most, if not all, set pieces. He's going to be the primary chance creator. I think it's a bargain at that price, at home, favored. And the $3 striker, the first prize is $5,000. The president who appears on the $5,000 bill is James Maddison. Coincidence? I think not.
I can't top that. That was unbelievable. With that stat, that fact, I think I like Rondon, Newcastle striker. I think that's going to be the surprise. I think he's due for a big game.
Chucky, where are you, and how long is it going to take me to get there when the show ends?
Cape Cod. I don't know where. Probably an hour and a half.
There you go. Looks beautiful.
I don't know.
Enjoy that
Friday
weather.
night.
Yeah, that's true. Traffic on Friday night. Just make sure while you're there, you go mini golfing, you get some ice cream, have yourself a hell of a time.
They're all on the checklist.
Just keep talking about the Red Sox, too, like you did earlier.
I mean, yeah, why not?
All right, thanks to Charlie, thanks to Jordan. If you haven't heard, we'll let those guys go. If you haven't heard, the DK Live team ventured to the Big Apple last weekend.
Had fun?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we had a time. Most of it we can even remember, which is terrific. The DraftKings World Fantasy Baseball Championship was going on. It was great. I was there, had a chance to catch up with former Yankees pitcher David Wells. Enjoy.
Would it bother you having to hear about people's fantasy teams?
No, I mean, I got to go out and do my job. So, I mean, in order for me to get a paycheck, I got to be consistent on the winning side and all that, but at least keeping my team in the ball game. I just want wins. Wins, and I don't care about my ERA. I don't care about strikeouts. Because if you have 20 wins every year, you're going to get a big paycheck. So you're going to get a big contract.
That's got to offend someone like you then, having that belief that, you know, so many, like the modern day belief, I'm not saying among pitchers, but like people who follow the game, people like talk hosts, that sort of thing, think that the win is an overrated stat. It doesn't even matter anymore. Now it's about ERA and some of the advanced metrics.
Well, I mean, wins has got to be there. I mean, as long as you're going out there and you're giving a good performance. It's like right now, I think 4 innings is a quality start now compared to when I played and before me. It was 7 innings.
Right.
Was a quality start, and so now there's stats for that, and which is it's just crazy. But you're not going to see these stats anymore because they've got the 100-pitch rule.
Yeah.
Or some guys that probably can't do it. You know, they can't go over 100, then they get tired. But you never know what you're made of until you really push yourself to the limit. But you can't do it now because they've got so much invested in these young guys and these teams. you know, it's taken the integrity from the game in my eyes. So, you know, to me, it's like if I was to play today, I would be blackballed out of the game because I wouldn't come out of the game. I'd be fighting my manager. I'd be fighting the pitching coach, the owner. I'd go after him because it's like my job is to go 9 and give me every chance to go 9 as long as I'm keeping the team in the ball game and I'm not laboring and walking guys left and right. If I went to bed early, bet big that I'm going to lose. You know, if I went out all night, bet big that I'm going to win. So.
Well, hey, Boomer still seems like he's wrapped up in the sport, and in particular Red Sox-Yankees.
Yeah, he enjoyed talking about that, and that's only a section of a lengthy chat that we had. But, of course, I'm not surprised. He grew up in the area. Even though he pitched for both franchises, 2 top teams in all of Major League Baseball, his heart still belongs in New York. It was basically, in the grand scheme of things, a cup of coffee with the Red Sox about a year and a half or so.
Yeah, very cool. All right, good time to segue back to the diamond. Greg Ehrenberg and Matt LaMarca rejoin us here on The Sweat. Good to have these guys back talking about the 11-game slate tonight.
Absolutely. Now, we need to sweat out some tears, guys, tears of joy. So we're going to get Greg and Matt's picks from the different levels of DraftKings Tiers-style contest. Tier 2, Andrew Benintendi, Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story, Bryce Harper, Michael Brantley. Those are your options. You only get one, Greg. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, it's Bryce Harper for me. Dan Straley's really struggled since the All-Star break, and a lot of it's due to an increase in his walk rate. He's walking almost 5.5 hitters per 9 innings. He just simply hasn't been very good. Bryce Harper has had a bit of a down year, but he's been much better since the All-Star break, 196 WRC+, and he's also changed his approach a little bit. He's been a little bit more aggressive, which for DFS purposes is good. Drawing walks is nice, except it's even better to have a guy who's putting the ball in play more, chance to hit home runs, driving runs, and all of that good stuff.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I hate to agree with Greg, but I think Bryce is the play here. He mentioned the numbers since the All-Star break. His StatCast data backs that up. Hard hit rate of 52% over his past 15 games, which is just excellent. And Dan Straley all year has been pretty rough on the road against left-handed batters. 386 WOBA allowed. So I think this is a really nice spot for Harper and honestly all of the Nationals.
Hey, did you notice that Greg popped his collar?
I was just going to say, I was just going to bring it up because I have a very short-term memory. Are you just trying to be like Reed? What's going on here? Were you in the middle of getting dressed and then you had to come back on the show?
Well, I'm kind of only half dressed right now because I actually am wearing Stormtrooper pajama pants. But also, I thought you guys were very unfair to Reed Fowler, who follows me on Twitter, so I had to go support him and change my attire so I could try to look like him.
I knew it wasn't just a coincidence.
Do you follow him back?
I think so.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
Maybe not. Maybe just popping the collar. It's okay. You know what? I know Reed. He'll take whatever he can get. It's okay. It's all right.
Let's go to Tier 4, guys. A lot more names here. Javier Baez, Giancarlo Stanton, Juan Soto, Trey Turner, Jerickson Profar, Joey Gallo, Ben Zobrist.
The laundry list.
The laundry list of tier number 4. Matt, your pick.
I like that Greg's showing a little chest hair there, too. That's a nice little treat for the viewers. I like Joey Gallo here, going up against Odrisamer Despaigne, who is just an awful pitcher. His overall numbers aren't really abominable, but that's dragged down by the fact that he's pitched in some of the most pitcher-friendly environments in San Diego and Miami. For his career, he's been much worse on the road, 368 WOBA allowed to left-handed batters, and that should really play up at an extreme hitter's ballpark in Arlington. Gallo has also been just stupid good at home this season, 392 WOBA, 21 home runs against right-handed pitchers. So I think that this is just a phenomenal spot for Gallo.
Greg, your pick in Tier 4.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to disagree with Matt here. I did really like to listen to him pronounce Despaign's name in whatever accent.
Beautiful pronunciation.
It was on point. But I really like Juan Soto here. One of the things is with tiers or pick'em, whatever it is that we're calling it now, whatever it's going to be after. I really like to try to play hitters from the same team because they correlate. It's kind of the way to build a stack within the tiers game. So Soto correlates really well with Harper because they're in the same game, same lineup. Dan Straley is not any better in this segment than he was when we talked about Bryce Harper just a few seconds ago. And people are a little concerned that maybe Juan Soto, who's only a 19-year-old rookie, would start to drop off as pitchers started to see him more this year. But 159 WRC plus the second half of the season compared to 150 WRC plus first half of the season, he's just a stud.
I like that. Stacks of tears, I guess, is what he's going for there.
I don't know how I feel about him disagreeing with him right after he complimented his chest hair, though. I mean, he was incredibly supportive, and then, I have a different idea about this.
Well, I thought when Greg went on camera and Matt went away, I thought Matt was going to pop the collar himself.
Yeah, right.
But
it's not out of the realm of possibility. We're not done yet.
Please.
All right, hey guys, let's get your slate-approved picks for tonight. All together, we've had you on twice tonight. Who is your absolute lock on this 11-game slate?
Don't be shy. Whoever wants it.
All right, so I think I have to go with Scherzer here. Earlier we said, is Scherzer the lock of all locks? And I said Chase on that. So I don't know how I could not pick Scherzer as a lock after I call him the lock of all locks.
And I'm doubling down on Joey Gallo. I think he goes yard at least once, maybe twice.
Ooh, a home run pick added in there as well.
It's big. He's calling a shot.
All right, Greg Ehrenberg of DK Live, Matt LaMarca of Action Network. Thanks a lot, guys. We're getting ready to talk some golf.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. If you haven't been keeping up, we're going to be joined by the guys from Tour Junkies coming up momentarily. Very popular podcast. Encourage you to check it out if you haven't. But today, and it's not quite over, it's just about over, round 2 at the Wyndham Championship. Yeah. And right now, I'm Brant Snedeker, of course, the record setter on round 1. He was 11 under, shot a 59.
Eagle?
It was absurd. It was absolutely absurd, but picked up right where he left off. Not quite at that level, but still another 3 under today. So he leads the tournament. He's in the clubhouse. He's at 14 under. He's 2-stroke lead on DA points, and old dot points there is having himself a heck of a day too. He's done as well, but 6 under for points to get him to 12 under. So he's been at a consistent level each of the first 2 days. We got a pretty good fight going on. I mean, heck, in terms of get within 6 shots of the lead, let's call it, with 2 days left, obviously, you're talking about the top 15 guys. So we got a dogfight here.
And deservingly so, he is the highest priced golfer for this coming weekend.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, keep in mind those salaries come out for the weekend before round 2.
Right.
So you go out and you do what you do in round 1, and then all of a sudden. So pretty good. You know, there are a lot of different guys to keep an eye on here that we'll outline with these guys once we get going. But yeah,
we got some podcasters coming on with us here to talk PGA.
I don't want to delay you. Do we have them?
Do we have them?
Are they ready?
We're good. Oh, okay. All right, they're here. Talking golf, as Kaufman mentioned, Wyndham Championship in Greensboro, North Carolina. Second round, just about wrapped up. Let's go to David Barnett now. He is one of the podcasters, as well as Pat Perry. Tour Junkies is the name.
That's right. You can hear that dynamic duo. You should always check it out. Podcast at tourjunkies.com. Fellas, how are you?
We're good, man. How are you guys?
We're great. I mean, I like the bad hat. That's different, huh?
Yeah, man. Bad birdie golf. Bad birdie golf.
Bad birdie golf. Well, yeah, their newest episode, by the way, came out as far as the Wyndham Championships is concerned. It came out on Monday. So if there's anything there you guys want to chew on that's related to the weekend, go for it. Guys, we're going to get your thoughts now. Looking at the second round, which player performed above expectations, you think? Let's start with you, David.
Keith Mitchell. You know, I got to go with Keith Mitchell. He's a Georgia boy. We're Georgia boys right here in Augusta, Georgia. Mitchell played golf for the Georgia Bulldogs. You're going to hear a lot about that from us if you have us on the show. Keith Mitchell came out firing, birdied his first 5 holes, went pretty low today, as he is known to do. We've talked to Keith a couple times. Loves to hit driver, loves to be really aggressive. And if we're talking about, you know, guys for the weekend, I think Mitchell is one to watch. I think his price tag is pretty good for the weekend. And again, you want a guy who's aggressive, as we all know that finish position doesn't really matter over the weekend on DraftKings. So if you get the guy who's going to rack up the birdies, score the points, be aggressive, that's Keith Mitchell. And if you look at the weather forecast too, which you need to check for golf this weekend, a little bit of rain coming. And if the course softens up, you're going to have bombers with a little bit more of an advantage. Keith Mitchell hits the ball a long way. Let's just put it this way. My co-host, Pat Perry, would have to hit it twice to get where Keith Mitchell's driving the golf ball. So that's who I like.
Wow. Don't feel bad. You're not the only one, Pat. You're not the only one.
Pat's getting ragged on already by his co-host. Pat, who did you like? Who are you liking so far in the Wyndham Championship?
Well, first off, me getting ragged on is nothing new for us, so I'm used to it. But it would have to be Sergio Garcia. I mean, we talked about on this show where you had these bubble guys who are on the outside looking in as far as the FedEx Cup points are concerned. And Sergio is one of those guys, and we haven't seen him do anything lately. I mean, he hasn't made a cut all summer long. But we do know he's a great ball striker. He's on that outside looking in at the 125, and he played fantastic today. I think he got it up to 9 under. So I think he's definitely one to look at for the weekend because he wants to make it into the playoffs.
So how about the duds? Obviously, those are the guys that impressed. But David, right back to you. Who maybe was an underperformer in round 2?
Well, a guy that we put out a little weekly email every week called the Chalk Bomb, and it's the guy who everybody's talking about that we think could suck. And yesterday we were getting a lot of ats in the Twitterverse on Ali Schneiderjans and his round of a 6 under 64, which, you know, that was kind of scary. But as we all know, if we play DraftKings, golf is a 4-round event. You gotta slow it down a little bit. Ali comes out today and shoots +3 when everybody else is going low. So now he's right there on the cut line. He's going to play the weekend. He's at 9,900 on DraftKings. But Ali's been back and forth all year, really. This hasn't been his strongest year. So, Ali was pretty popular going into the full slate, the full 4 rounds. I see him being popular again as you head into the weekend. He didn't play well today, and he is a fade for me going into the weekend as well. Chalk Bomb City.
What do you say, Pat?
Yeah, for me, it's got to be Stricker.
It's a lot of suspense right there.
It was just a cash lock this week. He's only going to play courses between the senior tour and the regular tour. He's only going to play courses that he loves, ones that he feels like he can contend and win on, and he just could not do it at all. I mean, just 1 under, just wasn't even close on the cut line. I'm sure he killed a lot of lineups this week.
So if you couldn't hear him, was breaking up a little bit, Steve Stricker, who he had right there.
Okay. All right, let's look ahead, guys, to the weekend contest. Brand Snedeker, the highest-priced golfer, $10,900 after an impressive, historic first round. We were just talking about it. Guys, is he the play, or is there a better value option to target? Let's start with you, David.
I'm going to say no, and I was all over Snedeker on the podcast Monday night and have a good amount of him on DraftKings. So I'll be pulling for him for sure in the full slate contest that we have going. But I'll stop for get off the Snedeker train for the weekend. Just with the 59, a lot of popularity, paying the 10-9 for him. I dropped down. I really like Henrik Stenson. Stenson, you get a little bit of a value there. He is 3rd in this field so far in the first 2 rounds in strokes gained approach. The ball striking has been there all season for Henrik. And you're getting a world-class player who won here last year. He can go low as he did today. So for me, I think Stenson's a good value down there. And as I already mentioned, Keith Mitchell, I'm really going to look at some bombers who can be aggressive this weekend with rain in the forecast. Guys who can get out there and take advantage of soft conditions. It does look like guys who just barely snuck in and made the cut that are going to play early tomorrow morning will play their full round without rain. So if you want to go, with maybe a little more of a short knocker, as I like to call him, that's teeing off early in the morning, I don't mind that. But other than that, I'm looking at guys who are hitting the ball well right now in strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach, and are going to be aggressive. So Stenson and Mitchell are some values for me.
Pat, you high on Snedeker?
You know what? David and I often disagree on the show, but I got to agree with him. For the weekend slate, I'm not high on Sneds. I'm not going to play him. Again, I do love him for the full slate, and we loved him this week, but he's not going to be a play for me. I like dropping down to Joaquin Niemann. I think he's a good play at 8,600. He's been playing really well. He's a scorer. We know that. So I do like him as a play. I think looking at Rafa Cabrera-Bello at 9,200 is another guy that you can look at, another guy that can score. I do like him. So there's some value with him. If you want to go cheaper, though, Sam Ryder snuck in under the cut line. He was barely on it, but had 3 straight birdies to close his day. He's at 6,700, way down there, pretty cheap. He's a bomber, great player, can score. So I like him as a real cheap option for the weekend.
Pat, are you being held hostage in a brewery? Nod if everything's okay.
Well, that might be a yes. Oh, wait, what'd you say there, Pat?
We're good.
Oh, he's good.
We're good.
He's all
okay.
right.
Good to hear.
Right. David Barnett and Pat Perry. Check them out on the Tour Junkies podcast. Guys, thank you very much for coming on. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right.
Looks like an okay place to get stuck, though.
Yeah, for sure. Kauf, what'd you learn today? on the slate.
I mean,
on the sweat.
Obviously,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
The thing that really almost kind of caught me off guard right back at the beginning of the show is I was surprised there was any debate over Max Scherzer. To me, that would be such a no-brainer. The way that he has been pitching this year, given the opponent, the matchup, all of it is. You factor just everything in and looking at what you have available to you. I would think you absolutely play him. But how about you?
How about Harry Kane? Charlie Davies sold me. The Red Sox 86-year curse that he brought up just sold me. And why don't we close the show by just popping our collars for Reed Fowler? Reed, I got you, man. Koff won't do it. I'll do it for you.
He's not even watching
anymore.
Got you,
man.
It's going to do it for tonight's edition of The Sweat. Thank you for hanging with us during, of course, launch week of the show. You can catch everybody, all right, a lot of cast of characters involved in this show. It's Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, every single day, every single week. Stay with us. This is fun, buddy. We'll do it again.
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, have a great weekend.